Welcome to the Shine Away podcast. Today I'm joined by Dylan Schmidt, the head football coach of the Andale Indians. Coach Schmidt has been the head coach since 2017, and during that time put together one of the most impressive runs of football in the state of Kansas. They are six-time 3A state champions, 6 out of the last 7 years. They have a 110-4 record during his tenure at Andale. Included in that, they had a 57-game win streak. He spent 1 year at Wellington High School and had a 3-6 record, so that brings his total head coaching record to 113-10, which is still amazing. He's an alumni of Andale High. He pole vaulted at K-State and Wichita State. He's married to Whitney and has 5 kids. Welcome, Coach. Yeah, obviously we'll get into the program at Andale that you've put together. Second to none, what you've done. I'm up here. Mill Valley's done something similar. And then when I was growing up, Smith Center had quite the run, and you're right there up there with them. But let's jump back to when you were a youngster. What sports growing up did you play?
Yeah. Yeah, I played them all. As a kid, I remember playing soccer because we didn't have football. We didn't start football till sixth grade. And back then it was sixth, seventh, and eighth grade were one team, which wasn't the ideal model. But that's how it was. I grew up in Colwich, just outside of Andale, but Colwich, St. Mark's, Andale all filter in to the same high school. But, you could start playing football in sixth grade, and so they had a little soccer team, I think, that went into Wichita, and I think it was something to do in the fall. And so did a little bit of soccer as a young kid, probably third, fourth, fifth grade. To remember what grades we did it, but I just remember doing it. My brother did it, had an older brother. And then started playing football in the fall, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, and obviously carried that into high school. Wintertime, played basketball. I think you could start as a fourth grader. And I actually was able to start as a third. I kind of played a little bit on my brother's team. He was 2 years older than me. And just kind of dinked around with it, I think, but really got going as a fourth grader. I actually wrestled 1 year, seventh grade year. I did football, and I did basketball. And then in the springtime, I did baseball like most kids do. Started at t-ball. That was probably the first sport I started with around kindergarten age. Did all that all the way up to the fifth grade. My dad was the pole vault coach. Had an older brother that was getting seventh grade, and so my dad basically said, "Hey, look, we're going over the track every day, and you're going to come with us." And I was a good little baseball player and enjoyed playing it. But you know how that goes sometimes with, where your brother goes or where your parents go or is where you're going to go. And so he took me over to do track there, and basically did all the events in track. You mentioned being a pole vaulter. I actually went up as a decathlete to do the decathlon. I was a good javelin thrower out of high school, ran the hurdles, ran on the 4x1, just did a lot of track events growing up. So obviously my childhood was a lot of sports. My dad is still the high school coach, still the pole vault coach. So he's been doing it for 30 years plus at Andale. And my mom was a teacher. So grew up kind of in a sports.
Well, I love that backstory. It sounds like the majority of the people I've talked to, that's the way their upbringing was. It wasn't just jump into one sport and do it. You did anything and everything possible, and you went with the seasons. Through that, obviously you mentioned your dad and pole vaulting, and that kind of led you to your college career. Did he coach you in any other sports in the youth, or did you have just a number of different coaches growing up?
Yeah, he did actually. He coached our youth basketball team, our rec basketball team. So fourth through sixth grade. He and so he was. I got one of my kids running through here, and so he was our coach there for that. And then football wise, and that was his background.
Yeah. The one thing I grew up with was my dad coached me, and that was always just something that led me to want to eventually be able to coach, even if it was just at the youth ranks, coach my kids. And I've been fortunate to coach both my boys in middle school and watch them grow up. And I coached them both in soccer, even though I grew up in Minneapolis, Kansas. We didn't have the option of soccer, so I had to do a lot of YouTube and reaching out to soccer coaches, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing with these kids. My main thing was just to get them to play hard, and if nothing else, you play hard, and we'll figure it out. But did did growing up with a dad in the coaching ranks, or potentially any of your other young coaches that when you were a youth, did they inspire you as you graduated college? When you look back and think, okay, I think I want to do this, and maybe the reason I want to do it is because either my dad or this coach, just the way he treated me as a young kid, I really want to be able to do that for the youth.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think it was one of those things I really thought about, though. I just think it's the nature of, when you see that on the daily. And, I had a lot of success in high school with my sports and had, offers in football to go play college football and verbally Fort Hays State to do football and track, um, and a lot of Division II offers. And then in track and field, I had offers from OU, K State, Missouri, Wichita State. And in basketball, I had some small college basketball offers. I was the MVP of the league, and and started for 3 years and first team all league and all things. And so, I just loved being around sports. But actually, when I went to college, I thought I want to make more money, um, and I got into it. And I just kind of missed like that itch of being around the competitive game day environment. Um, and so, my dad posed this question to me one time. It was kind of funny, and he was kind of hands off when it came to like most parents say, do what you're passionate about. And but it was funny, like I got my first job in medical sales out of school, and so I ended up getting an exercise science degree. I ended up getting a physical education degree, master's in sport administration, and I was a graduate assistant at Wichita State for a year. And Steve Rainbolt was the track coach there, and still is, and he was big time motivation. Just an unbelievable head track coach and just coach in general and person to be around. And I thought long and hard about doing it at the college level. And he offered me the job as the sixth assistant when I graduated, to be the vault coach. But there's just no money in track and still isn't. But at the time, I'm like, man, I can't do it for that amount of money. And and so got into medical sales, and I did the medical sales for about a month, and I thought, this just isn't me. It's great. I mean, these guys were making unbelievable money, and you could see, the potential down the road to make unbelievable money. But I just didn't feel right. There's just something deep down in me that thought, man, this just doesn't. I could do it, and I think I could be successful. And I've always been one of those guys that I could do anything. But sports and competition and athletics and all those things just came so natural to me. And so I just felt like, hey, this is what God wants me to do, is to be around that world and be in that environment. And I've been lucky that I've grown up with that and been around so many great coaches. I mean, every coach I had was inspirational. Every coach I had, I thought, man, really appreciate him taking the time to work with me. And I don't know what they would say about me. Reflecting back, I felt like, I would have done anything they asked him to do. And it was just, it was kind of that era too, 80s, 90s, where, there wasn't cell phones, there wasn't social media, there wasn't personal trainers, there wasn't private coaches, all those different things. It was like, that was your coach. And I loved it. And so, to say that, but I don't know that I really thought about it, but I just thought, it just came so natural to me, and then to be around it.
Yeah, so you kind of answered the question of why you coach, because you feel it's calling. You're just natural, in everything. So I guess I'll adjust it a little bit. Why football? Why not track? Why not basketball? Why not, like, why did you hone in on being a head football coach?
Yeah. So my first year at Circle High School, so I taught at Circle for 2 years, went to Andale for a head job at Wellington for a year, went back to Andale. So kind of bounced around, trying to find my way like most young coaches. My first year I did football, basketball, and track. I think I did it the next year as well. And that was busy, and I was single at the time. So it worked out fine. Um, but then when I got to Andale, I felt like, hey, I need to, and there wasn't an opening there. I felt like, hey, I need to give something up. I think I was dating at the time, um, and so football and track were a good fit. And so obviously because I did college, so that came natural to me. And then I would have continued to do football and track, but my son, you know, got going with golf. He's a really good golfer. And so I think it was probably, I don't know, I'd been doing football and track for about, hold on one second. No, it's not in here. And so um, I'd gotten into my kid's sitting there. He's a 5, 6, 7, 8 year old. So my son Graham, he won the U.S. Kids Worlds 9 year old in golf, and then he turned around and he won it the next year as well. Year out at Pinehurst, North Carolina, is where they have the U.S. Kids World. And so I could tell that he was talented, and it was one of those deals where I was going, man, like here I'm running out to track practice, and my son, if I would help him, or be around him, and I play a lot of golf now. I didn't grow up as a golfer. I could help him out by getting to the course, by doing those things, and so it just got to the point where it was just natural to, hey, I need to give something else up again. But to think that down the road that I would enjoy coaching basketball, you bet. I coach the fifth grade basketball team now, the youth team, now which he's on it, the rec team. I coach some youth track at Andale. I coach the youth football team as well. So I'm doing a lot of youth sports in addition to coaching high school football. But I really love them all. I mean, I could coach any sport and really enjoy it. But the thing that I did love about football is just the Friday nights. I also felt like if you were a guy that understood the weight room and understood speed development and athletic development and was organized, just all those things, man, you could really have a big impact in football because there's so many moving parts. There's just, multiple teams and, strategy and all.
Yeah. So talking about your football program, I mean, you jump right in and you go four straight, take a year off, and then two in a row. So, um, what is it about? What have you brought to the Andale program? Obviously, whenever you have the level of success that you've had, the players are a big part of it. But I don't recall hearing prior to you that they were winning that many in a row. So, what did you bring to kind of take them to that next level? What was it? Was it just the speed, the strength, that those organization skills you talked about, or was there something else that you brought to the program to push them over the hump and make them the power they've been?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always tell people it's a lot of things, right? It's the cumulative effect of a lot of things done well. It's the weight room done well. It's nutrition done well. It's the off season done well. It's everything in the season done well. It's getting kids out for other sports. It's having great sports at our high school, and all those things add up, right? And so you say, well, that's creating a vision. That's creating an infrastructure from the standpoint of the coaches and nutrition and weight room time and everything. And I could go on into all those details in any one facet, right? Whether it be weight room, whether it be nutrition, whether it be all those things. And we've just looked at, hey, well, what are the best programs doing from a high school perspective, from a college perspective? How can we implement that at Andale, Kansas? Because it's not going to be the same. We're not going to, our training table nutrition is not going to be what Nebraska has. But can we have some type of, Andale situation? Our weight room is not going to be what K State has, but, can we make it the best possible here? And so when you look at all those different facets, of what play into successful programs, that's kind of been our goal. But I tell people all the time, the three key things is people, is process, and it's product. Well, the people is the people that you get around you, right? It's we have what we call friends of the program. It's everybody that helps behind the scenes to make it successful. It's the coaches that are on our staff. It's administration. People matter. When you can get people in the right positions and let them coach and let them do their thing, whatever it is, you're going to be successful. Um, it's process. How do we improve our daily process of how we practice, of how we lift, of how we organize stuff, of how we hold kids accountable, on and on and on. What's the process that we need to improve? And there was a lot of good processes in place already, but I felt like there's things we could improve. And then obviously the product is the kids that we get every day. I knew we'd get a good product. Andale gets a good product year in and year out. We're going to have good kids. They're going to be coachable. They may not be going on to the NFL to play football, but we've got a few. But they're going to be great high school football players because their parents want them to be coached. They want them to be there. And if we'll take care of our end of the process and we'll take over our end of getting good people in there, and I've hired some unbelievable assistants.
So typically something like that takes a little bit of a time to establish. So like maybe year 3 or 4, they've seen you grow the program and like, okay, we really are bought in. But they must have just jumped right in head first from the very get go from the success that you've had. from day one.
Yeah, 2017, we play in the title game. My first year, we play Bishop Miege. We get our butt kicked, but it was really a special year. Probably further than we should have. We beat a really good Bueller team in the playoffs. We beat a really good Fersen team. They were probably better than us. We just found a way to win. There was no way we were beating Bishop Miege that year. They were absolutely butt in the final. But we turned around the next year in 2018 and thought we had a really good team, and we did. We played Pratt in the Pratt, has the Tice kid, and they end up going to the final 21-19. It was a barn burner of a game. 2 years, obviously, we're close, but we just don't quite get it done. And in the 19, we get it going. And then we win in 20, we win in 21, we win in 22. And then in 23, obviously, we have another championship level team. We get beat by Cheney in the regular season. That snaps our 57 game win streak. We turn around, we get them back in the semifinal, and we're up 24-0 on them. And they rally back and beat us in a barn burner of a game late. And then turn around, and obviously we've won the last two. And so it's been a lot of success, but I can say this early on. I mean, there was battles to fight, right? With just hey, this is the way things are going to be done. And, that's kind of my mentality, right, wrong, or indifferent. If I believe in something, hey, that's the way we're going to do it. And whether that's parents or whether it's administration or whether that's kids or, yeah, it takes a while to get people to buy into, hey, this is how we're going to handle it. Um, and there's a tactful way to, right? And there's, you try to win people over, but I have thick enough skin too. And my wife tells me, well, that's why no one likes you, is because I'm matter of fact on some things. But sorry, in a leadership role, that's how it's going to be. We're going to do it this way, and I don't care whether you like it or not. This is how it's going to be done. And but I think anytime you have success, then it gets more right. And so they can see, well,
Mm-hmm.
maybe he's not a tyrant, or maybe he does have vision for what's going on, and he does understand what it means to be successful. And and so anytime you get the success with it, then you get more believers and more people to follow. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. But now the challenge is, can you keep it going right year in, year out? Because people get tired of, it's just human nature. It's hard to be great. Most people, and me
Mm-hmm.
included, right? I mean, it's,
I think it's Kobe had a quote: "Leadership is lonely sometimes," and that's kind of your point. That when you're trying to set the standard, and be the leader that you need to be for your program, not everybody's going to buy in, and especially early, especially if it's different and it's hard. Um, Now that you've had success, 6 out of the last 7 years, you've won the state championship. How do you keep your students, your players, your families, everybody, your coaches from being comfortable? How do you keep
yeah.
them with that edge?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I just think you mentioned it earlier. There's a standard, and I'm going to hold you to it. And it takes a lot of energy. I mean, that's the biggest thing, especially as you get older. You're like, man, I'm worn down. Is that me getting older? Is that, and you feel like you're saying the things, year after year, day after day. But I would equate it to being a parent, right? I mean, as a parent, I mean, there's certain expectations and standards that you're going to have, and it doesn't matter if they're 5, 7, 12, whatever age they are. Hey, this is how we're going to do things, and this is the standard. And um, like earlier, it helps when you have great people. Our coaching staff's unbelievable, and so we have a lot of like-minded guys that view things the way I do. And I feel like they're on board with me. I'm not fighting coaches. We're speaking the same language. I talk about that all the time in our staff meetings. We all need to speak the same language. And so back to kind of the parenting perspective, right? If mom and dad are on board and they speak the same language to little Johnny, about here's how we're going to clean our room, and here's what we're going to do after the meal. You're going to clean up dishes, and it's like, no, you get your butt over here and you get those dishes done. And everybody's saying that. Then pretty soon little Johnny starts to buy in. He understands, hey, and here's why. So yeah, you hopefully explain the why. Anytime we have success, we try to reinforce that. Hey, this is the Andale way. This is how we do things. This is why we've been successful. On and on and on. But it's a constant motivational deal, right? Where, hey, and my coaches do such a good job of that. And we talk about that in our staff meetings. Hey, let's continue to show them why we do what we do.
Do you push your players? And maybe you don't even have to, because sometimes with a smaller school, it's just a requirement so you can have a successful team in the other sports. But do you push your players to be multi-sport athletes?
100%, absolutely, all the time. There's not a sport that benefits more than football from kids that are basketball players, wrestlers, track and field athletes, golfers, baseball players, all that. It's the competition element, right? It's the cross training element. It's the being coached by other coaches element. We got really good sports coaches at our high school. And pretty soon, what they understand is, hey, it's not just Coach Schmidt pushing on me. Coach Doug Eck in wrestling is going to do the same thing, and Coach Buchanan in basketball is going to do the same thing. I'm lucky that Adam Kroll is on our staff, our football staff, and he's our head baseball. Tyler Ryan is on our staff, and he's our head track coach. And so it's all intertwined at a small school, and usually your track coaches or your football coaches or vice versa. And so that helps me too. The thing that I've realized, and this may seem negative or whatever, but it's the truth, is that most kids, most people, like they want to be average. They want to be, I don't know if lazy is the right word, but it's hard, right? I mean, it's hard to do hard things, and so even the sports, like I'm so surprised. We'll have absolutely football players, and they're great basketball players, or they're great wrestlers, or they're great track athletes, or baseball, whatever it is, and they're going like, "Yeah, coach, I just don't think I'm going to go out." It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind, because it's just not the level that I thought at. It's not how I thought. I thought sports was the greatest thing in the world. It's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? I mean, if I could continue to play right now, I would. But what you realize is, man, not everybody thinks the way you do or on the same level that you think at. And so then it becomes, okay, well, how do I motivate them? Because if you say, well, that's bull crap, I shouldn't have to motivate them. Well, then, sorry, you're in the wrong business, because it's a daily motivational deal from a coaching perspective, and that'll never end. I mean, it's the same in the weight room. I mean, just, hey, if I'm benching 135, well, hey, that's good enough, and well, not for our place, not for our program. And so, how do we continue to create things in the weight room, or in practice, that continues to push and motivate kids? So, yes, without a doubt, I push them. I mean, heck, like I told you about my son and the golfer. I'm trying to get him to play every sport there is. And golf is one of those things where kids at 11 years old that are his age, I mean, they're playing just golf. And so I realize the benefits of that. And there's a time and a place, right, to kind of.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Coach King up here at DeSoto, who I'm good friends with, is he pushes that same mindset, and you'll see him at all the other sports, supporting his football players and even the kids that aren't football players, because he runs the weight program for every sport. He's the leader he sets everything, so he tries to do sports specific things for the soccer girls or for the basketball boys or whatever. And so I love hearing that, and I agree. I just like to play growing up, and so when I hear kids that no, I don't think I'm gonna go out this year. It's like you'll never get a chance again. Like if you don't do it now, you can play at the intramurals at K State or wherever. It's not the same. Nothing's like high school sports, in my opinion. So I'm
Yeah,
glad
and I couldn't
that
agree
you guys
more.
push that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially with your buddies, right? I mean, it's just, I mean, and I talk to our kids too about, I have some businesses outside of education. Well, guess who my business partners are? Guys that I grew up playing sports with. One of them's been very
Mhm.
successful, and it's the guy that I played high school basketball with, and I wouldn't have that relationship, and I wouldn't be in that business without playing basketball. Look at that too, from when you get around like-minded guys, or guys that you trust, and you develop a relationships with them. Guess what? That matters down the road too. And so often kids want to say, well, hey, I want to go work a job. I want to do those things. And I'm not saying you can't develop relationships at the workforce and other places, but there's nothing like high school sports and being around your buddies. And in the down the road, that can parlay into a lot of, really cool things. And so, yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I tell our kids so often, there's a time and a place for everything. And right now, your time is to be an athlete and play sports.
Hmm. Yep, absolutely. Switching gears a little bit. So you've more often than not, you're successful in your program. You guys have had success. So how do you go about talking to your team and preparing them for the big game, for the state championships? And then also, how did you handle those two losses to Cheney? I mean, losing your 50 game win streak, I'm sure that stung. I'm sure those boys on that team that really stung. And then being up and in the state or the playoffs and Cheney getting you again, uh, that had to sting too. So how did you handle those two type of losses that are big and something your program's not used to doing, but also how do you handle the winning this and keeping them hungry from that aspect?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of become cliche a little bit, but it's what we've always done. We have a couple things in our program. We BAs don't beat Andale. And we talk of just like on a game day deal, like what would be some things that would beat Andale, right? Like fumbling the ball, penalties, those type of things from like a football perspective. But we also talk about, not showing up in the weight room during the summer. I mean, we have the belief that at Andale, nobody's going to beat us. The only way Andale gets beat is because we beat ourselves. And so if you'll do these things every day on the daily and you'll be bought into the process, then we'll be successful. And so it's process oriented, right? Versus outcome. And losses, obviously when we got beat there, game 8 or whatever it was against cheating, we knew the way the bracket set up that if we took care of business, we'd get another shot at them. And so that was, a motivational deal. I think our kids have done such a good job from a process standpoint of regardless of you're best, you're the worst, you've lost a game, you've won a game. Hey, here's the things we're going to do on the daily. We're going to check all the boxes when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to lifting weights, when it comes to working our butt off at practice, and on and on and on, film study. And if you'll buy into that mindset of just, hey, regardless of where I'm at on the totem pole, whether I'm at the bottom or the top, I'm going to keep working and keep trying to get better. And it's all about myself. And not beating Andel, then you continue to have success. And, it's the way I live my life. And, from a fitness standpoint to get my workouts in, doing all those things. And same way I run my household for my, from a kid perspective of coaching my kids is, hey, that's great. Yeah, you did score 20 points, but guess what? There's room to grow. There's room to get better. Or, hey, that's right. You did win a match, but guess what? Next week's another opportunity and you can get it done and let's keep getting better. And so I remember talking to Randy Dreiling one time at the Kansas Coaches Clinic, and I was at Circle, and we were 2-7 my first year and 4-5 my second year. And so I got some perspective on losing too. And I said to him, I said, man, we need to get better at Circle. They just won 5 titles or 6 titles at Andale. And he said, yeah, we all need to get better. And I thought, yeah, that's the truth. Regardless of what level you're at, whether you're Hutch with Randy Dreiling or whether you're Circle at the time, we weren't very good. Everybody's trying to get better. We're all trying to do the same things. And if guys are bought into that mentality, well, then you will. If you're at Hutch and you're going, hey, we don't need to get better, or you're at Andale, hey, we don't need to do those things, then guess what? People are going to beat you. Because we tell our kids too, people get tired of hearing about Andale. They want to kick your butt and they're tired of hearing about you. And so you better get ready because they're going to serve.
Yeah. I love that. They always say comfort kills, and you need to get better every day. And it sounds like that's something you guys have implemented into your program as a daily thing. That regardless of what happened yesterday, today's a new day, and we're here to get better and work and put in the time and the effort. And so that's good and refreshing to hear that young kids are getting that, because that will set them up for down the line as husbands and fathers and people in the workforce, everything, it's going to benefit them down the line. So that's really cool that you're teaching them that it works in sports, but it also works in everyday life. You guys have, I mean, I think if I remember right, I think it was 2022. You guys outscored your opponents 600 and some to like 60. I mean, something ridiculous. Some of your best teams compete with the 5 and 6A state champs those years. Like, are you guys that good? Like, how good were you guys?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you perspective on this year. So our motto at the freshman JV levels is player development. I've never put an emphasis on it. I tell my coaches in our coaching meeting, we get together in the off season for kind of a retreat. And I say, hey, look, I'll fire you for 2 reasons. Number one, I'll fire play people in the JV and freshman games. You better get them all in. This is about player development. I could care less whether we win or lose. We got to get guys in. If you want to keep them out, they got to play. Number two, you better be loyal to me. You better come talk to me. We'll address it in the coaches meeting. Let's have a conversation. I got thick skin. Let's talk about it. And so those are the 2 things I always talk about them. But to jump back to your question, our emphasis at the freshman JV level is not on victories. It's player development. I mean, it's 11 in, 11 out. group one, group two, group three, no matter how many units we have. And we're splitting teams up too. Like this year, we had 3 or 4 games where we had multiple games. So we'd send 18 to one JV game and we'd send 18 to another. If we lose, big deal. But kids loved it because they're playing a ton, and that's why kids come out for sports so they can play. So at the lower levels, we do not emphasize winning. At the varsity level, though, Friday night, that's a different deal, right? We're going to play to win, and then once the game's in hand, we actually play our seniors first and not our number twos because that's the seniors' only time to get in. But anyhow, long story short, to back up, our freshmen didn't lose a single game. Our JV didn't lose a single game, and our varsity obviously didn't lose a single game. The first time in program history where we didn't lose a single game at any level. Well, JV plays Capon. We play Mays, beat them 62-0. We played Bishop Carroll. We played Bueller. I mean, you name the team over the years. We've played Derby, beat Derby at the JV lane. We're not playing at the varsity level, but do I believe we could 100% now? Or there's some years where we couldn't, without a doubt. I mean, I've seen some of the Derby teams and Mill Valley teams, and then when they're loaded, this would have been a year where I looked across the state and the team that we had, and I thought, man, we'd compete with anybody. We played Topeka Hayden and put it on them in the finals. Well, Topeka Hayden put it on Wamigo. And so you can play that game of this team played this team and team played this. The bottom line, we were really good this year and very. But yeah, our style of play, football wise, too, gives people smash mouth, all that. We play a lot of teams that are not used to it. With the Capon game, been a heck of a game, you bet. They were really loaded. Like I said, we played them JV wise and beat them. But anyhow, long story short, yeah, I think compete with them. But yeah, I mean, football, like every sport, is a numbers game. If you're drawing from 2,000 kids
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it may be, you're going to get some dudes.
Yeah.
And when there's 22 positions, 11 on offense, 11 on defense, and you're playing that sophomore and they're playing that senior. Now, traditionally, we've been playing those seniors. We'll have 20 to 25 to 30 seniors out. It's been a big advantage in 3A football for us. It's just our numbers. But in years to come, we've been around the low 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my brother he was following he lives in Minneapolis still, and he mentioned that, and he asked me what I thought, and I said, well, I haven't seen you guys play, and typically when you look at the 5 or 6A powers versus you guys, if there's one area they may potentially have you is numbers of players like that they could run out there, because I know most of the people up here they just go one way, they're either offense or defense, and I don't know if you guys do that. Um, but the size of the lines, that's usually where, I mean, I'm pretty sure Mill Valley ran a line out there that was not missing 300 by much across the board. So that they're big. And so, again, I just told him, I was like, well, I don't know what Andale's putting out there across the front five. If they're putting out something similar where they can handle that, then I think they're going to have just as good athletes at quarterback, running back, receiver. It's usually the lines that make the difference. And so that was one of the main questions, like, because I remember, I think there was a 4A school. I don't remember who it was, but there was a few when I was growing up that I was like, man, that has to be the best team in the state. I don't care any size, and I think you guys would be able to make an argument that this year you might be able to play with Central or any of the teams that took it home. So kudos to you and your program.
Yeah, and that's always fun debate. And I know everybody what it is. I mean, I could care less. And when I say care less, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like, it'd be neat if those games happened. If they ever will, obviously, like, take the state championships and play an extra week or something like that. But no doubt about it. Obviously, there's perspective too of what you're saying when you look at Mill Valley and they're running out there and there's 5 guys that are 280 to 300 pounds. You're going, holy cow, it's a college offensive line. And you're right. There's years that
Mm-hmm.
we've had that in terms of bigger kids, and there's years we haven't. And at most 3A schools, that's what you'll see is, hey, they're playing a couple sophomores, or hey, they're playing a lineman that weighs 190 pounds or 200 pounds or whatever. That's just the
Mm-hmm.
facts of the matter. That's how things are going to be. And so, just based off the pure stats and numbers and all that, yeah, you're probably right. And so year in and year out, do I think we could compete? Yeah. But there'd be some tough teams to beat, and so, but it's fun. I mean, like everywhere.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's just a fun coffee debate. But at the end of the day, you guys had people that showed up in front of you, and you beat every one of them this year on the way to another state championship, and that's all you can do. You can't worry about whether you could beat this 4, 5, 6A team. You beat the 3A teams that stood in front of you, and you're going to try to do it again next year. So, uh, last thing here, I just want to jump to some quick hitters and just kind of get your opinion on some things. So, first off, one of my favorite questions and most coaches' least favorite question is, give me some of the best players you've coached.
Oh man, that's hard, isn't it? That's like, out of your five kids, pick. That depends on the day, right?
Yeah.
Um, oh, I'll go through some kids that have went on to do some really good things. I'll start just
Hmm.
with this year. Sam Harp makes top 11 in every publication, I think, for the first time ever. Our starter over the last 3 years, and one of the guys we've ever had play quarterback for us, and 50, 70 touchdowns, whatever he ends up scoring in his career. And I mean, he was just an absolute dude. Um, Shrine Bowl guy, and like I said, top 11 and everything. And he's the one guy that I feel like that I've coached that on and really do some special things. He's getting a firefighter, and I think run his own HVAC company. Good for him. Um, but he's just one of the ones I go, man, that'd be fun to go watch him play. So comes to mind. Mason Fairchild played at KU. He's playing professional football. In 2018, he was part of that team that got beat by Pratt. Um, and so, I mean, here you go. He's making money playing football. So played tight end for us, played some defensive end stuff, and, 6'5", 250, had a great career at KU. So had all the measurables, and, and playing the position he played some slot back for impact in terms of, like scoring 60, 70, 80 touchdowns type of deal like Sam. But, what an absolute stud. Like I said, he's still playing football. Um, a kid that played for us on that team that got beat by Cheney. He's going to Wyoming to play linebacker up there, and so it's been really cool. Riley Marks is a kid that was an absolute stud. Hang cleans up at K State 420 pounds for a single repetition. He hang cleaned 395 as a high school kid for us for a single repetition. Yeah, and he had 3 Division I offers to go play football. Um, to go play at New Mexico State, to go play at Old Dominion, and then Southeast Missouri. But he decided to go do track, javelin thrower for them. So those are 3 Division I guys with Mason Fairchild, Riley Marks, Carson Butts, and then obviously I just mentioned. Um, you know, with all that said, I was an assistant when we had Hunter Knobloch. In 2014, we won the championship, and I was an assistant. He goes up to K State as a walk on, ends up not sticking with it. I thought he would be like a Wes Welker type kid. He ran 4.47 at K State's camp, was the fastest kid there. And Blake Seiler was the coach at the time, and he called me and said, Hunter just ran the fastest time at the camp. I said, I'm not surprised at all. He was such a stud. And so I could go on. There's 5 of them, but
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And the mark of a good program is to have a long list of 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 kids that you could really roll through and not miss a beat. But let's switch it then. You've obviously played some big games, played against some phenomenal football players on the other side of the lines. So who are some of the best players you've had to coach against? Try
oh
to game
man.
plan for.
I mentioned Travis Tice there from Pratt. So he goes and plays at South Dakota, plays running back for him. And heck, I still playing. Like, I think he had a really good year in Canadian football. And I'd heard at one time the Browns or somebody had called him in last month to do a workout or whatever. But for small town, a kid that was like a high school guy that had an unbelievable impact in the game. Man, he was scary. Played linebacker for him, played running back for him. I think it was like 8,000 yards in his career. Now we've played some kids that are obviously really or like Arlie Morrell out of Pratt. He's kind of, and we'll see the career that he has, but I mean you can tell he's going to go on and do some really good things. Um, so there's 2 Pratt kids right there. When we played Bishop Miege that year, oh, they were loaded. They had the Armstrong kid that I think went over to maybe he was at Notre Dame and then finished at Minnesota. But Utz was the quarterback who went to Notre Dame to play quarterback, and I think at the time he had broke all the Kansas high school passing records and all that.
Mhm.
Jackson, that Cheney. I mean, he's going to Louisville now. I mean, you talk about a high school guy that dominated the game, and he had 19 catches in that second game we played him, which tied the state record. I mean, we couldn't cover him, and so we know those are some guys that come to mind that and two of those guys I just mentioned with Tice and Voth, we lost those games, right? Well, I guess three with the Bishop Miege, and so with Carter Putz, and so you don't forget those names because those would have been some of our losses, but there's probably 15 to
Yeah.
20 other guys, right, that you name that were Division One type guys and played against, which makes it fun. And to be honest, I mean those guys that and I'll use Jackson Both as an example. I mean, I hope he goes on and absolutely kicks butt. And I know the family well, and have messaged with Jackson.
Yeah, there's nothing better when a kid from a 2A, 3A, 4A Kansas school goes on to a school, and whether it be Division 1, Division 2, whatever level, and just has a career, and does a phenomenal job at whatever sport they're playing. I mean, obviously, I grew up in the era of Jordy Nelson, and what he did was, I mean, at some point, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame, but um, maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. But he's had a Hall of Fame career from 3A Riley County, and John McGraw's another one that I grew up in the area of. So switching to college, you mentioned before we jumped on here that you're an Oklahoma and a K-State guy. So just give me a few guys from both of those universities over the years that you've enjoyed watching.
Yeah, so I mean, number one, yeah, I get this sometimes. It's probably laughable to you, but guys will ask me about who do you think's going to win this game or whatever, and they're asking me about college football or pro football, and I'm going like, I haven't seen a game this year, because you're so busy with your high school season, and
Hmm.
watching this team or watching that team, and so I'm usually the worst. I mean, like people are asking me about the Chiefs, and I'm like, well, I know Patrick Mahomes, but that's about it, kind of deal, and kidding a little bit, but just don't spend a lot of time
Right.
getting to watch it the way I want to watch it. With all that said, I was up at K State, and Terrence Newman was a teammate of mine on the track team. I was pole vaulting doing decathlon. Well, he came from football, and we almost won the Big 12 indoor that year. It would have been 2001 or 2002, because he came out and won the 60. He won the 200 indoor. Goes on to win the Jim Thorpe Award that year for Nation's Best D-back. Gets drafted by Dallas Cowboys. I mean, holy cow! I mean, I was telling my son, hey, I was the fastest kid at Andale, and I'm lining up and running against Terrence Newman in a 40-yard dash. He's finishing, and I'm 20 meters in, or whatever it is. It's just, I mean, what an absolute stud he was to be around. And so
Hmm.
he's a guy that comes to mind. The fun thing is I've kind of developed a relationship with Mark Semino over the years, just through him coaching, and him and I chat quite a bit. I run up there and and kind of pick his brain on different things and what a career he had. Brandon Clark's another guy, at Derby. Brandon and I are good friends and chat quite a bit, and followed his career when he was at Valley Center, and then obviously went to K State. And so those are guys that are coaching in Kansas high school football, that played at K State, and or that I was teammates with, and that it's just cool to see those guys have the success they've had. And I kind of knew them back in the day or followed them or whatever you want to say, to kind of have a personal relationship from a coaching perspective. It was fun to kind of cheer them on and so forth. Darren Sproles was the same age as me. And so played in the Shrine Bowl that year. And my roommate was Ted Sims, who played at K State. He actually had the pick in the 2003 championship game when Oklahoma had
Hmm.
supposedly the best team ever. He picks it off for a pick six,
Yep.
and takes all the way back. So he was a Newton kid. And him and I were roommates for the Shrine Bowl that year. And so still have a relationship with him. He texts me from time to time about different things going on and with our games and so forth. He's up in the Kansas City area now running a business. And so those are, I mean, there's a bunch of guys, right? I could go on and on and on. From an OU perspective, the guy that we followed this year was the Canic kid. Moves from linebacker to play kind of a slot receiver out of Hayes, Kansas. Well, the Schmidts are from Hayes. My dad was Kansas, 1 of 9 kids. And so really followed him, and Marcus Watts. I pulled against Marcus Watts, who at K State and growing up, and so I think the common theme there, right, is guys that you know or have a connection with, or you mentioned George Johnson. When I was a freshman at K State, I think Jordy was a junior or a senior at Riley County, and one of my buddies go watch this kid play basketball, and I'm like, I'm not going to watch some high school kid play basketball. I could care less. Well, it was Jordy Nelson, and so I should have went and watched because that guy could pretty much do it all, as you know. And John McGraw was up there,
Hmm.
like you said at the time, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a friend, well, one of my son's friends, big OU fan, and we were watching the OU game this season, and Kanik made a play, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, have you ever seen that highlight of him as a Hayes High quarterback where he runs through pretty much everybody on the team for like an 80-yard touchdown?" He's like, "No." I said, "You got to see that. If you're an OU guy, you got to watch this one." I mean, it was super impressive, and hopefully he can. I think he was at the Shrine Bowl or the East West Shrine Bowl. I think he got an invite, so hopefully he can make a career out of it because athletically he has everything, and to make that switch and be successful this year is super super impressive. Um,
agreed.
Jumping to the NFL ranks, just over the course of your career, who'd you enjoy watching in the NFL?
Yeah, the Chiefs invited us up this year as a team, and I wasn't able to go, but sent some of our coaches and players, and that was really neat. And so, obviously, with the Chiefs too coming out into Kansas, that's kind of cool. And so,
Hmm.
the easy answer is Patrick Mahomes and all the success they've had, and just fun watching them be successful. Because I can remember when we were younger, right? They weren't very good. Barry Sanders, obviously being a Wichita guy, and watching the success he's had, and that's been really neat. I mentioned Wes Welker earlier. Kind of the undersized, small town. Nobody recruited him out of Texas Tech. The one guy I didn't mention that I was around, I wasn't coaching him, was B.J. Finney at Andale. We ran up to a Steelers game, and he kind of showed us around, and so any type deal there. I coached Jordan Phillips at who had an unbelievable career and was
Oh
with the
yeah.
Bills. So I was always obviously
Hmm.
following him and the success he had. He actually swung by Andale High.
Yeah. No, that makes it easy to root for. I know DeSoto had a kid here, Shane Watts, I think it is his name. Got a little cup of coffee with the Patriots this early this year, and he went from there to Fort Hayes and made a career of it. And it's pretty much based on what you said. He just was willing to outwork everybody else. Born naturally gifted, good athlete, but then I'm gonna outwork you too. And it sounds like that's what your program does as well. You get the good kids, but you also get the kids that are good that actually put in that extra to make them even better. Being the last question I have for you, you're a track and field guy, and so that's not an area I'm very familiar with. But I am curious some of your favorite track and field people throughout the years.
Yeah, Steve Fritz was the decathlon guy at K State when I was up there doing decathlon. Him and I obviously have a relationship now and love chatting with him. He gets fourth in 1996 in Atlanta. And
Hmm.
that was big when the Dan and Dave deal and wins the gold and all that. And so, really neat to see, and that's a long time ago, but followed his career as a kid. I pole vaulted, so Mondo Duplantis is doing unbelievable. He's broken the world record however many times, and it's just been really neat to see that. Um, Also through the javelin, and this won't be a guy that everybody knows, but was a guy. John Hetzendorf is the jav coach at Wichita State. Well, he threw in the 2003 World Championships in Helsinki, Finland, for the javelin. He represented the United States as the javelin thrower. Where he was my javelin coach at Wichita State, which was really cool. And I think if there's anything you realize about track and really every sport is, man, there's so many good athletes out there. It's just incredible.
Yeah, yeah. I just saw I don't know if it's a tweet or an Instagram post or something about the young man that's from, I want to say either Mays or Mays South right now at K State doing the high jump. Just went 7.4, 7.4 and a half or something like that. That's amazing. I think his last name's Hannah. Yeah. So, well, Coach, thank you for joining me. I know you're busy. You got five youngsters running around and a busy man. But thank you for joining us, and best of luck on into the future at Andale. Keep it going. Thank you.